Live. We're going live. I don't know if we're live, but what's up, everybody? It's Tyler with Hooksets are free. Hope you're having a great night. It is Friday, April the 8th, 2022. Hope everybody is doing well. I'm going to give people just a couple minutes to hop in here to this live stream before we get into the real action. But I want to talk about a couple of things tonight. First, we're going to talk about fishing. Um, and then we're going to do a little unboxing and then talk generally about fishing. So I'm going to give people just a moment to join in the live stream so that they can engage in the conversation, and we'll go from there in just a moment. So little roll call. What's up, Daniel T? What's up, Simon Zaire? How are you guys doing tonight? Good to see you in here. Hope you guys had a good day finishing off your week. Hope you guys are looking forward to the weekend. Simon says crappy weather in Illinois. Well, dang. Sorry to hear that, dude. That is that's unfortunate. We had quite nice weather here today. It was like 65 and sunny. Quite lovely. So I actually, when I put my son and daughter down for nap time in the middle of the day, as my wife was still sleeping after work last night, I ran out and did a little bit of fishing before picking up my 6-year-old from kindergarten this afternoon. So I had about an hour and a half to burn, and decided to go to a little pond, and I caught my first couple fish of the year. So actually caught 3 bass in a little over an hour. So that was super exciting to actually get out and do a little bit of fishing. Not only get a line wet, but actually hook a couple fish. So nothing to write home about. I mean, this body of water only has like 1 or 2 big fish in it. So I caught 3 bass that were probably all in that 10 to 12-inch range. You know, I doubt any of them were over a pound, but got my first 3 fish out of the way this year. It is a pond that I routinely catch crappie and bluegill out of as well, but um, I had the idea to just kind of play around with a few different lures, and ended up catching a couple fish. So that was super exciting. And dang, Daniel says in Kentucky we had rain and hail today. Well, shucks. Sorry to hear it, guys, that everybody further east than me had bad weather today. And Ron, yeah, I gotta rub it in, dude. I'm not really trying to rub it in so much as just express the good vibes that I'm feeling from catching my first couple fish of the year. You know, it feels like it's a little bit late, though I guess technically it's not. I'll show you guys the lures that I tried out today. I could have sworn I okay. So as promised, I do have another one of my homemade crankbaits to show you guys, and it did not run quite like I wanted it to today. I might just need to do a little bit of tuning or changing of the bill on it, quite frankly. But here she is, and this color pattern was really meant to imitate the 6th Sense Black Magic color. So let's see if I can find one of those baits to show you real quick. Do I have one in this wiggle wart box? Kind of. This isn't the exact color pattern. This is a Strike King bait, the 3XD. Let's see here. And this isn't even the right version of it, but essentially what we're talking about is a black and blue crankbait. I've got that color in a lot of different baits, so I wonder if I'd be able to find the one that I really designed this after. But Looks like it's showing a little bit of wear after 1 day of use. So here she is. That glare of the light is not ideal at all, but black and blue. Okay. It's not very often that you see a black and blue crankbait, but I thought I would go for a rendition of that. Now, the issue with this guy is not the body style, not the weighting, but perhaps the tuning of the line tie or the shape of the bill itself. So I'm thinking I'll probably just file this thing down to be more of a square bill or a rounded bill. Right now it's like a long and narrow coffin bill, and this thing didn't quite run right. It wanted to lay on its left side a little bit on a straight retrieve. But if I were to twitch this thing like a jerk bait, I had really good action. Of course, super high float since it is made of balsa. But yeah, I'm into this color pattern for sure. I think it'll do well in dirty water, along with my fire craw color that is really my first bait that has truly run well for me, has a good action to it, and I'm still digging the color pattern. So, one of these sides is a little bit better than the other. But yeah, um, I've got a couple more that I'm working on that are coming. One of them's curing right now upstairs. It's really just like a chartreuse black back more than anything. But Ron says, Tyler, you do good work. You either need to make lures or do nails. uh, yeah, well, I do my kids' nails, and occasionally I'll do like a toe or something like that of my own. In fact, you can see that I still have some toenail polish on my big toe on my left foot. Adam Odin, how you doing, brother? Um, all right. So the other couple lures that I really made a point to throw today, and I was fishing a shallow pond that has a lot of grass in it. So it really was not super conducive to throwing crankbaits, though I did throw around the Lucky Craft uh point 0.7, I believe this is called. It's not labeled like most Lucky Craft baits are, but this is like a 1.0 size LC square bill. It's got more of like a bone material lip on there. This is the T.O. chartreuse color. I really do like this color. But this guy is a shallower diving square bill crankbait. I really just wanted to see the action and kind of how it runs and how shallow or deep it runs. And it really is kind of what I expected. It's got more of like a medium wobble to it because it is a small body, so it's not quite as fat as a lot of other square bills on the market. If I put this side by side with like the Rapala BX Brat in its shallow diver, for example, you can just see how much fatter the BX Brat is than this LC 1.0 or zero point 0.7 as they call it. So it had a good middle of the road action, and I would say that it does dive about 2 to 4 feet. So that's kind of what I expected. And I don't think I really threw any other crankbaits, if I'm not mistaken. There might be a few things that are evading me that I'm not thinking of that I had tied on and cut off. But one bait that I did tie on and then surprisingly caught a fish on, because I was really just wanting to see how this thing looked in shallow water, see how it ran. But this is the homemade um, spy bait that I've talked about a handful of times on this channel. And this guy right here is the Megabass Okashira Screwhead. and then a Zappu Para R screwed in the tail. So I cut off the tail section of a Kitech swing impact bat in the 3.8-inch size. And this thing had the exact action that I was hoping and expecting it to have. Um, both props were spinning just wonderfully. And yeah, I mean, I knew it would work, but I didn't quite expect it to look so good. You know, spy baits are really meant to be cold water and to target suspended fish, but most people would not think about throwing something like this that is more of a soft plastic spy bait, or rather, most people would rig a small paddle tail swim bait on this, right? They would use something like the Mega Bass Spark Shad in the 3-inch, and just have that blade on the front turning and the tail in the back kicking. So you get kind of a medium aggressive action, whereas this thing just runs straight through the middle of the water column. Does not disturb a lot of water, but these props put out a unique vibration, and yeah, the bait just runs true straight. So I was not expecting to catch a fish on it. I really just wanted to see what it looked like in the water. And so I made a couple casts trying to catch a fish, didn't catch anything on it, and then just wanted to see how it looked up higher in the water column. And so I was kind of bringing it back and forth, and boom, a fish ate it. So that was actually my first fish of the year, was just watching to see how this bait acts in the water, and had a fish that was up shallow come eat this thing. So that was pretty sweet to see. Ron, I was surprised because I was not expecting to catch the fish at that point in time. I was more expecting to catch a fish a couple of minutes prior to that, when I was making targeted casts where I thought would be more high percentage spots, bringing this thing by at a methodical speed where I thought fish would be hanging out. I did not expect him to be right in front of me, where I was watching to see what the thing would be doing, just 3 to 6 inches under the surface. So um, that was kind of a cool eat to have him come up and eat this thing right in front of me. That was super exciting. So once I actually got that first bite, then everything kind of changed in my head. And I started thinking, well, I might actually have an opportunity to catch a couple fish today. I guess it's a combination of the warm weather and slightly calmer wind conditions. So maybe I'll kind of see what I can do to catch a couple fish here. And so I re-rigged my setups. I had brought an ultralight spinning setup. I had brought more of a medium power spinning setup, and then I had a bait casting crankbait setup. So I brought the bait caster really just to test out that homemade crankbait, and maybe throw a couple other cranks if conditions were right, which they were not. And what did I rig on that ultralight? I've got like super light braid, like 4 pound Berkeley Nanofill on that. So technically not braid, but it really is. And I ran that to an 8 pound fluorocarbon leader. And what the heck bait did I throw on there? I can't even remember. It's up in the car in the garage right now. But on my other setup, my medium power spinning, I rigged up a drop shot and decided to throw on this guy right here. This is the Maxent tube in the 2.5 inch, and this awesome color called Watermelon Vapor. And this thing is wicked. Okay. So baby little tube here, and it's a watermelon color with some blue flake in there. And this thing got the job done. I actually threaded on the hook. I was using a size 1 owner mosquito hook, and I threaded the hook on there. So the gap was not very wide coming out the top of the tube, but I liked the look of the action the second I put it in the water. So I left it rigged that way. And I ended up catching 2 fish that way in like, I don't know, 20 minutes or so. And that was sweet. So I was running, a 3/16 or a quarter ounce lead weight with about a 12 to 18-inch leader. And again, that size 1 mosquito hook from owner. And so I got 3 fish in about 45 minutes time. And then the hook was sliding a lot. So I nose hooked that bait and hooked into a slightly bigger fish and then lost it as I was trying to pull him up and over like a lay down tree that he was hanging out underneath. So I knew that there would be fish there. And so I cast past it, brought my drop shot dangerously close because I was on the other side of the log. So I cast over it, brought my drop shot right up to the log, felt him eat. I set the hook on it, and that fish tried to go right under that log. So I kind of had to horse it to try to bring it up and over that log. And that did not work in my favor. So I lost a 4th fish that would have been my best fish of the day. But nonetheless, did catch 3 fish today. One on this little soft plastic spy bait modification, and 2 on a drop shot on that Berkeley Max Scent 2.5-inch tube. So super pumped about that. And we can move on from talking about my fishing excursion today. But we got Tom Mix in the house. What's up, Tom? How you doing tonight? We got Mark Megaforce. What's up? Grayson. Yo. Matt. Yo. Glad to hear that everybody's jumping in. 17 minutes in. I'm not sure why you guys get notifications late, or if you just so happen to be hopping on YouTube around this time. But we've had that issue a little bit as of late. I can't quite explain what the deal is, but I'm glad we haven't really dived into the unboxing for tonight just yet. And judging by the size of this package, I wonder if everything is actually in there. But we will see in a minute. Ron says, "Have you ever seen anyone open a bag of Maxon and not smell their fingers?" I don't think so, dude. I mean, it's stanky. Um, in like a weird way. It doesn't smell good, but you know that the fish can't help it. So there's an association there. Like you kind of have to smell it to know what the fish uh, are sensing. It makes you feel closer to the fish by smelling some nasty baits that get eaten really well. So, yeah. Tom says our high was 43 with 20-mile-an-hour winds today. 57 for a high on Saturday. Look forward to Sunday, high of 75. Nice. 75 sounds epic. I don't think we've had a day that warm yet this year here in Colorado. So yeah, Ron Hawley, still bassless chap, uh, is getting very close to going fishing. Uh, he's got his license, he's got his baits, he's got his rods and rails. He doesn't have everything totally spooled up and ready to rock just yet, but getting very close. So we're all rooting for you, Ron. No doubt about it. All right. Let me give you a little bit of a backstory here before we open these up, because to be honest with you, I'm not trying to do a lot of hoarding. If you guys decide that you want to go on this website and buy out the rest of them and potentially sell them and make a profit, then go for it. I don't think I'm going to do that. But the backstory here is that I watched last week's What's New at the Hookup Tackle. They make that weekly video every week that these days has been like 45 or 50 minutes long for the last month or two. And so they posted that video. I think it was a week could have been a week and a half ago. And in that video, they talked about some baits coming from Japan that are not new baits by any means, but rather old classics and baits that I've heard nothing but good things about, but had never pulled the trigger on. So there are a few baits like that out there that that are like tournament winning baits, secret baits. You know, maybe not secrets anymore, or they certainly weren't secrets back in the day, but are now, right? You know, kind of a flip side of that is like the OSP Blitz crankbaits. You know, that's an old secret, no longer a secret, but still super hard to get your hands on. And so same is kind of the case here. I don't know that all these are here, but could be. We're going to find out. What in the hell? One of these isn't even in the package. Weird. All right, so we're going to talk about Lucky Craft baits tonight. This bait, Lucky Craft packaging can come undone very easily. So it looks like maybe this one had been pre-opened, which is annoying because this thing was just already ripped right off. But let's start with baits that are a little less rare, and I'll just talk about where I got these baits and why I purchased them. So I went on a rabbit hunt, went down a rabbit hole hunting for a specific bait that Ben from the Hookup mentioned, made by Lucky Craft. And that bait is in here, and you're going to hear about it in a few minutes or a little bit from now. But as I found them on a website, and this is Fisherman's Warehouse, okay, I noticed that Lucky Craft baits are on sale, and they probably still are right now. I haven't checked since yesterday or the day before, but they were still at that point. And everything Lucky Craft, or a lot of Lucky Craft, was on sale for $9.99. And you guys probably know that those are great prices for a lot of Lucky Craft baits, especially that are typically retailing in that $15 to $18 range. So when you do the math, that's some great savings. So the first one here is actually a less of a rare bait and more just one that's been on my radar, but difficult for me to pull the trigger on because of its price tag and the fact that it's not super notorious for being a killer bait. Nobody really talks about this thing. So let's see if we can get this bad boy to focus for you. And probably not. So this is the KJ Flat 1.5. So this is a 1.5 size bait, just like the square bill, the LC 1.5. But it's got that thumbnail lip. Thanks for the reference there last night, Matt. And this is a flat-sided bait. So this was a flat-sided crankbait that I did not already have and have been curious about because it gets good reviews, but it's been kind of under the radar for a number of years. Not a lot of people talk it up or talk about it as, say, their go-to flat-side crankbait. So, you know, while I was at it, I noticed that this bait was on sale for $9.99, and I decided to pick a couple of them up. So this color here, which is awesome, is called MSIU. Usually the MS colors refer to this scaling on the side of the baits, and they typically cost $1 more than the standard prices. So you can see that this bait is transparent, has that typical IU pattern with that light brown back, the yellow dot on it, and a little bit of like a silver pearlish side and a white bottom. But this is a transparent bait as well, and it is going to be silent, but pretty sweet bait, and I'm excited to have it. So let me see if I can track down the other one of that bait, the KJ Flat 1.5, and this color here is called Zebra MS Ghost Minnow. Okay, and on the packaging it says that the KJ Flat 1.5 is 2.5 inches, so it's a 1.5 size. It weighs 3/8 of an ounce, and it dives up to 3 feet. So that is the main thing that really got my attention, is the fact that this is a shallow diving flat-sided crankbait. So that is a big reason that I like the Flat Force 4 from Evergreen, is that it dives a little bit shallower than most. I would say a standard diving depth for a flat-sided crankbait is right in that like 5 or 6 foot range. Some of them dive deeper. Not a lot of them run shallower than that. So check out this wild color pattern. MS Zebra Ghost Minnow. So it's like a hybrid between a ghost minnow and this zebra pattern with like some silver striping on it. You get a lot of reflective properties on this bait. So both of these are really flashy shad patterns, minnow patterns, if you will. And I'm excited to try out that bait and see what it's about. But let's see here. Matt says he got some too. I assume you're not talking about the Flat 1.5, and you know what bait I'm talking about. But Riley Belden in the house. What's up? Hope y'all have been doing well, staying safe. Can't stay on long. Have a tournament in a couple hours, but I couldn't miss out on some crankbaits. Well, I got a couple more to show you, so hang out for a little bit, all right? Because I'm gonna more or less fly through these baits, and I'm disappointed that the packaging is like destroyed on a lot of these baits, but it is what it is. Daniel, thank you. Hit the thumbs up button, everybody. There's 8 people in here, 5 thumbs up. Do me a solid real quick. Hit that thumbs up, okay? Matt says Lucky Craft is coming out with the 2.2 sizes soon in that bait you're going to mention as well. Don't want to spoil it. Well, you did spoil it, and that is the bait that I'm talking about. So we'll get around to that in a minute, but it is that specific bait. Okay. Adam, the first one that I showed is the Lucky Craft KJ Flat 1.5. This bait is easily accessible on Tackle Warehouse. I don't know that they really have either of these color patterns necessarily, but you'll be able to find similar ones. These are a little bit more rare color patterns, but it is the KJ Flat 1.5. And you'll see on Tackle Warehouse that it retails for like 18 bucks, I think. And yeah, all of these baits were $9.99. So I couldn't help myself but grab a couple of them. All right. Next up is a crankbait that a lot of people talk about, an old crankbait that is now a little bit more under wraps. People don't talk about it super frequently, and that is the BDS series of crankbaits. That stands for Big Daddy Strike. Each of the baits is a little bit different from another. They used to make a 0, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, I think. The 6 is like a magnum size crankbait. The 3 is, I think, notorious for being like the bait. The 2 is a fatter body. The 1 is a fatter body and borderline waking style bait, and the Zero is a wake bait. So um, I picked up a couple of the ones because this thing is a 1 foot diver. So check this thing out. This packaging was already messed up. I didn't have to rip that. Uh, but this is a 2 7/8 inches. Does not look it at all. Um, in fact, it seems like a shorter body than that KJ Flat 1.5 that is 2.5 inches. So I'll show these side by side. You know, so 49 millimeters. That's a 2 inch bait. So this is they wrote that wrong, but this is a 1/4 ounce crankbait, and it dives to a foot. So this is ow. Um, Now I am going to change the stock hooks on all of these baits because they come with BMC trebles stock on them. But this is MS Japan Shad, I believe it's called. I got this color in a couple of baits that you're going to see here. I really like this color pattern. You got the scales with that green back, more of like a silvery sides with that yellow cheek. Got the scales and then a white belly. So Japan Shad, really like this color. And you'll see this is a fat body. So 49 millimeters, obviously shorter than what you get with the KJ Flat 1.5, which size-wise, let's see if it says on the packaging, 64 millimeters. So yeah, 49 millimeters, really short and stubby bait here that runs really shallow. Now, the BDS is known for having this stubby and rounded bill. Okay, that this is what makes the bait unique. On all of the sizes is the shape of the bill. It causes this bait to run differently than most and come through grass really well. So it's not going to be amazing for bumping cover like rocks or wood like a traditional square bill would. But apparently this thing runs through grass better than like any crankbait on the market. So uh, that is something that I didn't already have, and was very curious to see about. So um, that holds true for the entire BDS line. The BDS 0, 1, and 2 have that shorter, stubbier body. And then as you step up from there, you get this long, slender profile where it's a little bit stretched out. And the guys at the hookup were talking about how there used to be an in-between size that was a 2.2 that actually had that body shape of the 3 and larger, but in a smaller profile. And that they felt like it was unfortunate that it's no longer made. They're hoping to, put in a word with Lucky Craft to see if they can bring it back or make a special run of them or what have you. But Ben was saying it's too bad that the 2.2 no longer exists. So that was the bait I went on the hunt for. And you'll see that I did get a hold of them. So I got one other color of the BDS one, and this is called Magma Heat Up Gill. So again, 49 millimeters and a 1/4 ounce. This is more of a traditional craw slash bluegill blend here, where you get that red and gold that, in my opinion, is going to be awesome in the pre-spawn. So I have a lot of fish eat a chatterbait or red colored baits up shallow um, along riprap. So, you know, I didn't necessarily want to throw a bait that's going to get hung as much, but a lot of times when the sun is high and you've got a warming trend, these fish will come up dirt shallow, up way shallow, and they'll position themselves up so that they're facing the depths and they're tucked way up there. So then, as unsuspecting bait fish come by or your lure, they will dart into the water and eat whatever's there. It's more typical that you would see fish in probably 3 feet deep waiting for something above them to come, and then they come up, grab it, and go back down. But a couple places that I fished, these bass will sit dirt shallow and kind of back themselves up to the bank. And I find that a red colored bait gets it done really well. So that's what I envisioned doing with this guy right here, the Magma Heat Up Gill. And it might even do well just in dirty water year round. So we shall see about that guy. So the BDS one, that is also like a, $16, $18 bait that was on sale and was $9.99. And then I thought that I got some bigger sizes like the BDS 3, but honestly, I think they only had one color that was on sale, and it was not 99, not 9.99, but rather 11.97. And I saw that bait was less expensive elsewhere, so um, I did not pull the trigger on that, but I did get 3 of the 2.2. So this is the Lucky Craft Fat CB BDS Magic 2.2. Fat CB BDS Magic 2.2. You can see that this bait is a 2.5 inch or 65 millimeter and half of an ounce. Is that 5/16? 9.2 grams, 65 millimeters, and it dives to 3 feet. So cool thing is you get that middle of the road body length that is not as big as what you get in the BDS 3 or 4, which are both 3 inches in length. So this is a little bit shorter. This is going to be the same size as that 1.5, but you get this profile that is the same as the BDS 3 and 4. That is this longer, slender profile, a lot of taper in that tail compared to, say, the BDS 1. And the BDS 2 has the same fat body as like the BDS 1, I believe. And so it's not until you step up to the BDS 3 that you start to get this long, slender profile. And they have it in the 2.2. So I'm pretty jacked about that. This is called MS Gill. Was that right? And I love this. It's a flashy, scaly bluegill pattern that is mostly silver, and it'll be interesting to see kind of how this thing performs. You get a little bit of purple as I kind of flash it to the side. And I got 2 other colors of this bait. I did get the Japan shad, so that same color pattern that I already showed you. And like I said, I'm not selling these on the secondary market, and if what Matt said is true and they are going to bring these back, then there's not a whole lot of value in these. But my intention in buying them was to keep them and see what they're about as opposed to sell them. And so here's that MS Japan shad color. I love how big the eye is on this bait. And then lastly, I had to get one. And this is actually a pretty in-demand color. Could sell this one on the secondary market for, I don't know, 30, 40, maybe more than $40. But this is called Mad Craw. And it's beautiful. It's like a matte finish of like a red orange craw type of deal. So you can see that matte finish. Look at that thing. BDS Magic 2.2. Love that color pattern. Smooth too. So yeah, I kind of wish I would have gotten a couple in this color pattern because it's quite nice. But I can see this being a confidence bait for me. Silent, okay? That's a big deal. Um, silent baits. So that's 7 baits now. And I've got, I think, just 2 more, and that's it. So I picked up 9 of these at $10 a pop. Total was $89.91. No tax, free shipping. Freaking love that. So these other 2 baits are not crankbaits, but Tom says $9.99 was dealer cost when I worked at the bait shop. Yeah, it's a heck of a deal for Lucky Craft baits, especially for unique baits and cool colors. You know what I mean? Matt says he got a couple of the BDS 3s. He likes the profile of that one more. Almost has an old Bagley look. Well, how is the profile of the 3 any different than the 2.2? Because my understanding is it's the same profile in a smaller body. Okay. Next up, this is the popper, the G Splash 80. I think I have 2 of these baits right now. They make this in a silent and a rattling version, and this is the rattle in, and this is that MS Zebra Ghost Minnow color that I already showed you in the KJ 1.5 flat. And I like this color pattern a lot. So you can see the internals of this bait and that rattle in the nose moving around. And I want to see if there's any movement in the back of the bait. There's not. It's just in the head. So that makes a lot of noise, and I'm kind of happy about that. But the G Splash 80 is a relatively big popper. It's long, it's slender, it's got a big cupped mouth, and this thing, if I'm not mistaken, does a good job at being more of a traditional forward moving popper. Not going to be one that you're going to walk a lot. I've got a couple of these baits. I wanted to see what the weighting is on this thing. I already lost the box. These all just blend together. Where are you? So I think this bait is a 3/8 ounce. So it's not super heavy for its size, but they just brought this bait back like a year or 2 ago, and it's in some relatively plain color patterns. Lucky Craft is known for doing that. It's a big part of why I bought these baits, is that these are all like color patterns that you don't see all the time, especially on the American market for Lucky Craft baits these days. So in some of their baits, they still make 1.5 million colors, but most of them they do not, including this guy here in the G Splash 80. So, you know, I want to say that I got one of them in more of a traditional color pattern, and then the other one I had to buy on eBay. So here I got this one at Tackle Warehouse. This is their traditional like bone shad color. This is a color that they've been making for the US market. It's crazy that all of them that I have are the rattle in version and not the silent, but This is one that I think I bought on eBay, and this is one of their rainbow trout patterns. I forget what they call it, but I really wanted that color, and had just recently gotten the that bone shad color. So I picked up that one on eBay for cheaper than they go for on Tackle Warehouse. Again, they're like a $17 or $18 bait on Tackle Warehouse, but the G Splash was $9.99. So yeah, these are all $9.99 right now, Ron. But if you buy them from Tackle Warehouse, you're going to spend quite a bit more. You know, let's just take a quick peek right now. Little Tackle Warehouse action. The Splash. $18.99 on Tackle Warehouse. Okay. Not a cheap bait. Lucky Craft KJ Flat. $18.99. I think the BDS are actually a little bit more reasonable, if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a quick peek. The BDS 6 is $19.99. No, the other BDS baits are $18.99. And they've only got the 2 and the 3. But I think it was on the hookup that they actually have them for like $11.99 or $12.99. Is those BDS baits. So when you compare the prices on Tackle Warehouse to what I paid at Fisherman's Warehouse, I mean, hell of a deal. Yeah, on the hookup, they've got the BDS 2, 3, and 6. The 2 and 3 are $11.99 a piece, and the 6 is $19.99. So $11.99 is a good deal for the 2 and the 3, but I did not get either of those. I got the 1 that you can't find anywhere, and I got the 2.2, which you can't find anywhere. So there you go. The KJ Flat on the hookup is $18.99. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the deals that I got there. And then the last bait that I got in here is a jerk bait, and one that I actually don't have. And the reason that I picked up this guy is that it is a, per the name, this is a slender bait. So this is the slender pointer, and not only is it slender, but it's a shallow diver. So this guy only runs to 4 feet deep. It is a 97 millimeter jerk bait, so it's a little smaller, and it's 3/8 of an ounce. But check this out. I talked about this last night. This is a big deal to me. It's got 3 treble hooks on it. So for a 97 millimeter jerk bait that is thinner in profile and shorter in profile and shallower of a diver, all 3 of those things are important to me, but it also has 3 treble hooks. So I'm jacked about this bait. I think the main reason that I didn't have it is, I don't know, the price tag on it. Although I've pulled the trigger on many pointer 100s, and it wasn't until like a year or 2 ago that they made the pointer 100 in the 3 hook version, the pointer 100 H3 they call it. And I have one of those right now because I've got like 20 of the pointer 100s that are the standard 2 hook models. And it's really been in the last handful of years that I have become much more a fan of 3 hook jerk baits, even when they're small models, than say a 2 hook jerk bait in a smaller profile. So the slender pointer, this is the MS Japan shad color, same that I got in the BDS Magic 2.2 and in the BDS 1. So I really like this MS Japan shad color. I really like this Where did I just put that popper? Already lost it. This Zebra MS Ghost Minnow, pretty sweet. And then I don't know, perhaps my most favorite is actually just this Mad Craw. It's like a matte finish, red back, orange belly, frosted bill. Love it. Love, love, love it. So I'm pumped. I got 9 Lucky Craft baits that are all high end and wicked colors for less than 90 bucks after tax and shipping. So what do you want me to say? I mean, that's a hell of a deal. That's like 40 to 50% off. So good. Daniel says, yeah, the BDS 2.2 is expensive on eBay. Yeah, it is. Now, it wouldn't be if, let's say, the if Lucky Craft starts making them again. But in theory, I think you could snatch these up and sell them on eBay right now for like 40 or 50 bucks, right? And they're 10 bucks. So is it tempting for me to just go buy like 5 or 8 of these and just list them on eBay, and best case scenario, I sell them and make a good profit. Worst case scenario, I've got a stockpile of these things, and I end up falling in love with them, or not, and I end up giving them away to people who do already love these baits. Yeah, it's you know hard to say, right? And still tempting, especially a color like this Mad Craw that I'm sure a lot of people would want to snatch up. So yeah, I say that now, and then they'll be gone tonight. Even though there's only 14 people in here right now, but Ron Holly, G Spot 80, you're funny, dude. G Splash, and it's 18.99, doggy. That says, yeah, they're the same length, the 3 and the 2.2. No, they're not, dude. They're not. The BDS 3 is a 3-inch bait. The BDS 2 is the same size as the BDS 2.2. That's the thing, Matt. 2.5 inches long, not 3 inches long. That's what makes the 2.2 special compared to the 3, the 4, and the 6, is it's got a downsized profile. This is the same length as a 1.5 size square bill. The BDS 3 is a 3-inch bait. The BDS 2.2 is smaller. Okay. You say you have the 4s, and for some reason I didn't catch as many fish on them. They're pretty fat and bulbous compared to the 3. Interesting. Daniel says they're 40 and up, that I've seen on just a quick look on eBay. Yeah, I hear you. Dave Jolly says just ordered pretty much everything you showed. Third tackle order today. I'm a degenerate. LOL. That is funny, dude. Um, well, I'm glad that you liked it all. I couldn't help myself. I was tempted to buy a whole lot more than that. When I'm shopping around, my cart goes like this before I finally pull the trigger. I've told you many times, including recently, that my average purchase is anywhere from like 70 to 80 bucks on average. This one was $89. So I rarely spend over 100 bucks. I almost never spend less than 50 bucks. And I feel comfortable if I can kind of level the cart out right at about 75, 80 bucks. Then I'll just go ahead and pull the trigger. I can do that once or twice a month and not feel guilty about it. Uh, though I try to keep it less than that, less frequently than once a month, but sometimes it's more than that. Abe in the house. What's up, Abe? How you doing? You say, damn, that's 2 shows I almost missed. Well, you did miss the bulk of tonight's show, but no big deal. I'll still be on here for a while, whatever you guys want to talk about. But in terms of talking about my fishing that I did today and unboxing this package. That is all done with and you've missed. So you might want to watch that on the replay if you haven't already seen it. Guys, we've got 14 people in here right now. I appreciate you guys. I got to say happy Friday night and cheers to all of you guys. Feel free to drop a comment down below and ask a question, say something if you want. Let's keep the conversation going. Say something, contribute, because we've got 4 or 5 people in here right now that are actually the ones in the chat. And for some reason, a lot of you guys like to watch but not say anything. And I like this to be as interactive and as active as possible, always. So please do be a part of the community, and let's get to know one another. All right. No, Matt. They're both 3 inches. Talking about the 2.2 and the 3 are the same. They're not, though. The 2.2 is 2.5 inches, not 3 inches, dude. Sorry about it. I don't know how many times I got to tell you. I don't know where you're looking it up, but take a look at this, dude. Fat CBS Magic 2.2. 65 millimeters, 2.5 inches, 5/16 of an ounce. This is a smaller bait than the BDS 3. Sorry, I don't know what to tell you. That is the reason I got this bait instead of the 3. That plus the fact that it was on sale for $10. So, same profile, smaller bait. That is what makes the Magic 2.2 magical, and why Ben was talking it up so much from the hookup, and why ultimately I went looking for that bait. The BDS 3 is more notoriously known as like a tournament winning bait. It is what all the pros and everybody who knows the BDS series sees as like the bait to have in the series. But when Ben was talking about the 2.2 and I looked it up, in my mind, that was the one that I needed to have. The BDS 1 also looked sweet because of the fact that it is a 1-foot diver. It's not a wake bait, but it's not a traditional shallow diving bait. This thing will run perfectly over the top of grass, but still subsurface. So I have some ponds and other bodies of water that I fish that the grass grows almost all the way up to the surface. So if I throw this thing on 15 or 17 pound fluorocarbon, maybe even some monofilament, this thing will run barely subsurface, not be a wake bait, but not make contact with the grass. But even still, this thing is known to run through grass really well. So I will get to know this bait and how the BDS series of crankbaits performs in and around grass. And I really look forward to that. So yeah, I'll keep you guys posted. Tom says the original BDS series 1, 2, 3, 4 referred to the diving depths. The ones were smaller. Interesting. BDS 2.2 came later, says Tom. Well, I wonder why it came later and then went out quicker, or why it wasn't as popular of a bait. Ron, I love that answer. Better than I deserve, when Abe said, "How are you doing?" Love that. Adam says, just placed my order. 11 new cranks on the way to use with my new cranking setup I ordered today. You guys just buying crankbaits. Geez, you guys are insane. You guys just buying them up like that, huh? If only I was, say, a brand ambassador or an affiliate for them as well. But you guys are making me a little jealous. Uh, I just opened a package from there, and now I want more. I got to check availability. You guys are freaking me out. They're not about to sell out of these right now, so that makes me happy. I might buy some more. All right. The Mad Craw. You guys just freaked me out that they might be sold out of these. There's still five or more of these. So sweet. Um, Daniel says maybe the 2.2 just didn't do well in Japan. That's entirely possible. Um, I don't know. Maybe they just like to go big or go small, and they don't like that 1.5 size, the 2.5 inch bait. But for me, that really is ideal. Uh, Although I've been trending toward liking 2 inch crankbaits more so than liking 3 and 3.5 inch baits. Like a couple of years ago, I used to think, okay, I'm going to go with a 1.5 size first and then bump up to a 2.5, or maybe do it in reverse. If I know that there's decent fish in the area, I'll start with a 2.5 size square bill, that 3 inch bait. And then if I'm not getting bit, I'll downsize to the 1.5 size, that 2.5 inch bait. But I've come to realize over the last year or two that a lot of fish in my bodies of water bite small bodied crankbaits. And so I've been really going out of my way to build my arsenal of small bodied crankbaits. And maybe we'll do a separate video on that another time. But it's a big reason that I like this Spro Little John 50. It's a big reason that I got the Berkeley Fritzside 5 Junior, and a bunch of other baits in these small bodied profiles. Even this guy right here, I look forward to trying out this year. This is the Bass Pro Shops egg. Talked about this once or twice. Epic Eric mentioned this like a month or two ago, and I immediately went looking for it at Bass Pro Shops. This is a super shallow diving slash borderline wake bait. So it almost falls into the same category as the BDS 1. It might be a little bit more of a wake bait, but you can see kind of the similar concept here. Fat body, super shallow diver. This guy has a rattle in it though. And the weird thing about the way that this bait is made are the hook hangers. They even have special treble hooks on this, so that this thing will lay flat against the body. It's not a traditional treble hook with the way that this hook is designed. Can you see that? I really don't like this front treble hook. You can see that two of the points are in line with one another. But even still, with these small hooks, they tangle way too easily. And they're both probably like a size 6 or something like that. So with one of these that I have, I literally just put on one treble hook on the front. um, for a standard size bait, they kind of designed it a little bit wrong. Not sure what happened there, but you can see with this Lucky Craft that they put that line tie up further to the front. And that was a smart move because you can fit much larger hooks on here and still tangle. But I think you can downsize these hooks ever so slightly. These are definitely bigger hooks, perhaps even a size 4. So size down 1, maybe go to a short shank, and it solves that problem without any issues. So yeah, Ron, how did I get FOMO? Just listening to people purchasing this stuff that I already purchased and am showing you guys right now. I inspired you guys to make the purchases, and then here I'm jealous um, of stuff I already bought. How hysterical is that? I'm considering buying again because you guys bought the same stuff that I bought. That is hilarious. Ron says, "What rod and reels were you using today?" Um, so yeah, I already mentioned this, but I had 3 setups out. I brought my crankbait setup that is it was my only bait caster that I brought out, using 12-pound line on that. So that's a 7 foot medium power, regular action is what Daiwa calls it. And I threw around a couple of crankbaits on that. And then I was using a 7 foot medium power fast action spinning rod. I think I had a straight 10-pound fluorocarbon on that thing. Was using a drop shot for that setup. And then my other one is like my ultralight. It's a 5'6" ultralight rod. And yeah, like a 1,000 size reel. I prefer like a 2,500 size reel for most of my spinning applications. Um, and that's pretty much what I own across the board, except for my ultralight setups. I prefer a 1,000 size reel. And so, yeah, that's what I was using there for for my other setup. And for that, I was using a forget what I had tied on first, but eventually I went to using uh, the mule fishing donkey tail junior under a float, and I had made a custom jig head putting a spinner blade on a trout magnet jig head. So I find that the trout magnet jig heads work really well with the smaller mule baits, and so I put a spinner blade at the front of that thing. And because I got bit on this dude with the spinner blades, my thought process was, well, if I downsize to something micro size, then I'll be able to catch some panfish, crappie, what have you. And I'm interested in that. So that was kind of my thought process in rigging up the ultralight, because I hadn't been using it, and thought I might as well rig it up. That's the first time that I've used that setup this year since spooling up that reel with that 4 pound Berkeley Nanofill line. Ran that to like an 8 pound Seaguard Tatsu leader, probably like a 6 or 8 foot leader. Adam says, got a hell of a deal on my Dobbins rod and Daiwa SV 103 Limited. Well, rock on, dude. That sounds like a great combo. Matt says, Tyler, do you know anything about the MTO 1.5s? No. And why some are like a bone collar, but then some are clear? And how is that a butyrate type plastic if it's clear? Um, or is there clear bone plastic? No, I don't know. Um, that's something I could certainly look into and explain at another time once I learn a little bit about it. But no, off the top of my head, I don't know. So I don't want to pretend to know and lie to you about it, because that's stupid. Damn. Listen to that. Adam bought from American Legacy, got 15% off of his Dobbins rod, and then $100 off the reel with the purchase of a Dobbins rod. So for that combination of a Dobbins rod, I don't know if it was the Caden or the Fury, but got a Dobbins rod and a Daiwa Tatula SV for 273 all in. That's a good deal, dude. Right on. Matt says that looks like a knockoff hook of the owner ST35 MF. Are you talking about the whack hook that's on the BPS egg? I'm telling you, I don't like this hook. Uh, I understand that it lays flush on a crankbait like that, having the two hooks in line, the 2 points of the hook. I just prefer a traditional treble, and I'll rig it properly onto the split ring. But yeah, that's weird. Well, right on, Adam. Nice purchase, dude. It's like getting a free Dobbins rod with the purchase of a discounted reel. Um, well, I mean that's a little bit exaggerated, right? The Tatula SV is a $200 reel, and unless the limited more expensive than the traditional Tatula SV. I've got the Tatula SV. I think it's a $200 reel, but I could be wrong if the limited is a different version and more expensive. But either way, sounds like you got a hell of a deal, and that's pretty sick. Tom says, Tyler, have you ever seen the Lucky Craft CB Mighty DR2? Small compact crank that runs about 5 or 6 foot deep, has the body shape of a mini wiggle wart with a longer bill for such a small body size. No, I haven't. The Mighty DR2. No, that sounds sweet. No, I have not. But that reminds me of the bait that I have tied on right now to my crankbait rod, and that is the Lucky Craft Moonsault CB. Uh, I think it's in the 100 size. So it's a shallow diver, has a relatively stubby but long body. I wonder if I've got any sitting in another box that I could show you, because I have a couple others of that same bait, but I just don't know where I have them stored because they're a little bit specialized and they don't fit into a category with many other baits of mine. And I don't necessarily have like a good place to put those baits. And so this has been happening with some of my baits. Like I just don't know where to put some baits, like this Jackal Aragon. Like I don't really know where to put it. And same goes with that Lucky Craft CB. Nah, I don't know where they are at the moment, but you guys, the principle that is the CB, right? Or the Moonsault rather. The Moonsault, and this is in the 1.5 square bill, so ignore that. This is not the CB100, but the Moonsault series, you get multiple rattle chambers and you get a rattle trap sound in a traditional crankbait body and wobble. And I freaking love that. But the Moonsault CB series is a longer, stubbier, different profile bait. So I don't know where I've got those stashed right now. I'll have to find those to show you another time. I've showed them to you guys before, but damn, Daniel, you said the limited is $100 more. Well, freaking why, dude? maybe that's snobby of me to say because I freaking love my Daiwa Tatula SV. I don't feel like I need a limited version of that reel. It's arguably my favorite reel that I own, and it's the standard Tatula SV. Matt says, "Yeah, I was confused about that when I got them. I was like, how about some bone, but then some clear, or how are some bone and then some clear, but the same bait unless they have a way of making them clear? Yeah, I don't understand that, and I don't know what to tell you. I'm sorry, man." Tom says, "Won me a few checks and a couple of big bass awards. Looked them up on eBay. I have the Moonsault 100 and 200 also. 200 works the best for me." Okay, yeah, I just because of the waters that I fish, I prefer shallower running crankbaits and have been in that mode more for the last couple of years. I've just found that those get a lot more use from me than say mid to deeper divers. Um, I had more deeper divers like a handful of years ago, I started moving more to mid-depth baits, and now I'm really stocking up on more shallow divers, if you will. But you've got the moon salts in the 250 and 300 also. Got it. Yeah, the moon salts are sweet. Whoa. Matt says, yeah, that's the hook that they use on the Tiny Clash. I've got the Tiny Clash upstairs. I didn't notice that, man. Really? They use that type of hook on the Clash? I I ought to look at that, but I did not notice that, and I feel like I should have noticed that because it's a weird style hook for sure. That treble with the 2 points in line. Um, yeah, Adam, I don't blame you for not wanting to pass it up since it was on sale and you got the rod on sale as well, so you kind of might as well. When you combine the two and consider that you spent 275 bucks all in for the combo, that's a great deal, man. So uh, there's no way you're going to be disappointed with it. And if you are, uh, I don't know what to tell you. Sell the reel to me at an even more discounted price, and we'll go from there. Guys, what other questions do you have? What else do you want to talk about tonight? Maybe I'll do a quick pee while you guys think about where you want to take this conversation, because I'm happy to talk about kind of anything and everything tonight. Um, but I don't want it to be completely random from my point of view. Just start going in every single direction. So you guys think about maybe a specific question, specific topic that you want me to run down, and we'll do that for a little bit, okay? Oh, it's starting to get messy up in this business. Mm-hmm. All right. All right. I'm back. Adam says, okay, I bought the combo and the crankbaits. What line do you all recommend? Um, well, you said you're going to throw crankbaits and top waters, right? I use a crankbait setup like I talked about last night for mostly crankbaits and then occasionally throw jerk baits on it. So I prefer a straight 12-pound fluorocarbon. I've been using P-Line Tactical the last year and love it. Um, so that is the route that I've chosen to go. But of course, you could go braid to a leader, and that will give you the flexibility to just change your leader out and then throw topwater walking baits on it just fine. So if you went with like a 20, maybe 30-pound braid, that would do the trick. And go to like a 12-pound, 10 or 12-pound fluorocarbon leader for crankbaits. It really depends on the crankbait that you're using. If you're using something that's going to dive a little bit deeper, maybe you want to go 10. Middle of the road is going to be 12-pound fluorocarbon for crankbaits. If you're throwing a square bill or something that runs shallower, maybe you want to go up to 15. Even a little bit heavier than that, but really I find that 12-pound fluorocarbon does the trick for me day in and day out. And then if you're throwing top waters, you could go straight braid, or you could throw on a heavy mono leader. In my opinion, 15 or 17-pound mono really does best. You know, you're going to get more of a stiff front end of the line that's not going to tangle around that front hook and get it fouled up nearly as frequently as you would with a thinner diameter line or straight braid. So uh, that is my main recommendation when it comes to that rod and reel setup. And it's totally personal preference as for just how versatile you think the setup is going to be. Ron says, anyone try the 13 fishing Glidesdale? No. Have I looked at it a number of times? Sure, I have. But it doesn't look all that special to me. Um, in my opinion, I'd rather just go with like a Savage Gear Shine Glide, uh, or an S Waver 168. I don't know that it's going to be all that special in comparison to those other baits that it is trying to compete with, and the category that it fits in. So it's like a medium small glide bait. It's not a small glide bait, right? I mean, we're not talking like a 135 size glide bait, but it's more in that like 6-inch range, if I'm not mistaken. It's not as big as, once you get up to like the Storm Arashi glide, that's like a 7 or 7.5 inch bait. It's closer to the 168 S Waver. Um, and so, yeah, I'm not all that interested in it. 6.6. Yeah. And see, that's the reason, right? I'd rather just step up to like a Sneaky Pete or, um, a Sneaky Pete is a little bit more expensive than, say, the S Waver 168 or the Savage Gear Shine Glide, uh, which is, I forget how big, but we could take a quick look. I think it's got a similar profile as more of like the Shine Glide. So a little bit more of like a gizzard shad than say what you get with the Sneaky Pete, which is a little bit more trout-esque, a little bit narrower of a profile, which is more traditional of a glide bait, right? The S Waver, you get that narrower profile too. But like I've talked about before, that joint is not very wide straight out of the package. So some people do like to file that down. The Shine Glide is a little bit more kind of perfect, whereas the Sneaky Pete is a little bit on the wide side. Let me just show you these three side by side, if I can, without getting hooked, because you'll really be able to see how dramatic they are. You get the most subtle travel in the joint on the S Waver. You get kind of a middle of the road, but still very serviceable and quiet joint in the Shine Glide. And then you get a little bit more noise and a lot more travel in the Sneaky Pete. Okay. So in my opinion, that kind of covers all the bases properly. But then you step up to the Arashi Glide, which is a bigger bait. It's about the same length as the Sneaky Pete. It's just bigger. Okay. So same length, right at about 7.5 inches, but it's fatter. So it displaces more water. It has a little bit less travel on it, but still a really good bait in the Arashi Glide. So that Glidesdale, for me, kind of fits right in with all of these, and I don't see a need to have it myself. Does that mean it's a bad bait? No, of course not. But on top of those, I've also got the Jackal Gantarelle, which is a bluegill glide bait. Really, it's a 3-piece, but it is more of a glide bait than anything. It's a floater, and I've got it in the full size and in the baby. So yeah, I haven't seen a need for the Glidesdale. Okay. Dave says, agreed on the 12-pound fluoro for cranks. I like Sunline Sniper, Seagar, and Vizex. I also love Invizex, especially for like 15-pound fluoro for multiple purpose setups. That has been a go-to line for me for years. You say seems like the Invizex has a bit more stretch than the Sunline. Uh, yeah, I like Invizex for multiple applications. Um, I I don't necessarily disagree with the fact that it has more stretch than the Sunline because I can't speak to the Sunline, um, but I've had no problems with Invizex over the years. That is just the truth of it. And Adam says, I wonder if the guy in the shipping department at Fisherman's Warehouse is what he's going to think. Ton of orders coming in about the exact same time with almost identical baits in each order. I don't know, but maybe I should reach out to him and say, listen, uh, look what happened. Technically speaking, that was because of me. Let's work together, dude. But at the same time, I told you guys last night that I explored their entire website in like an hour. Uh, and their selection is pretty good, but it's not like I'm in love with the website per se. Uh, so how much do I really want to represent them? I don't know. Especially because there's a kind of a conflict of interest between me working with them and Discount Tackle, especially at the same time. And I've loved Discount Tackle for years and only shopped at Fisherman's Warehouse a couple of times. So yeah, I also wonder what that guy will think, though. You're right. It's a good point. Matt says, I don't know, seems more stable than the River to Sea or the Shine Glide. What, the Glidesdale? I don't know. The Shine Glide is pretty stable to me. In my experience, the Shine Glide is it's a good glide bait for sure. And in the swim videos that I've seen of that Glidesdale, I mean it looks pretty good. Um the thing is like all we have to go off of is marketing videos, and of course they're going to show you the best of the best clips that they got shooting action videos underwater. um, we have that to go off of, combined with word of mouth and recommendations from other people. So the reason that the S waiver has done so well is because Matt and Tim at Tactical Bassin have talked it up like crazy for the last 5 or 7 years, and they fish it a lot and they like it. But to be honest, the action of it is meh when you compare it to other glide baits on the market. It's just those guys like it, and they can back it up with the catches that they've had on that bait. So people buy it, including myself. Daniel says general rule of online: fluoro sinks faster, braid slash mono floats a little bit more. Yup. Um, and the lighter the line, the deeper the crank will run, closer to its max depth. Solid fundamentals there, Daniel. You're absolutely right about that. And for top water, braid won't give you the same walking action without a leader on it. Yeah, so I tried to cover all of that by just saying, if you're gonna be using your setup as a straight crankbait setup, Adam, that you should use fluorocarbon. 12-pound fluoro will give you that middle ground where it'll still allow most of your baits to run to the depth that they are made to run to. Um, and that's going to be that perfect middle ground. If you want to have a little bit more variation though, you go braid to a leader, and then that leader you can switch from 10 pound and run your cranks deeper to as much as 15 or 20 pound and keep them shallow. And then likewise, you can use braid to a leader to use top waters and run a mono leader and go heavier to make sure that that braid is not giving um, that top water any opportunity to foul up. It's going to keep that thing super high uh, and floating. So totally agree, Daniel. I'm with you. Adam says, I'm thinking about 15 pound might be my sweet spot. Waters aren't super deep here. Yeah, honestly, if you could go 14 pound, you might be happy with that. But I don't have super deep waters, and I found that with a dedicated crankbait setup, 12 pound is the deal. 15 pound is the deal for like an all around setup that I'm using for chatterbaits, swim jigs, Texas rigs, wobbleheads, literally anything and everything. If I'm using a medium heavy fast rod with like a 7 speed reel, 15 pound fluorocarbon is the deal. Okay. But if I'm using a crankbait setup that is more of a medium power, moderate fast action, and I want it to be for crankbaits, but I might also use it for jerk baits. Boom, 12 pound fluorocarbon is the deal. Okay. Um, if I want it to do multiple things, then in comes braid to a leader. In an ideal world, you might have two spools for the same reel. You could have one with braid on it, one with fluoro on it. And then there you go. You've got a single spool with 12 pound fluoro, a single spool with braid that then you could run a mono leader or a heavier fluorocarbon leader depending on the bait that you're using. And there you go. 30 pound braid to a 15 pound, 17 pound fluorocarbon leader, or a 17 or 20 pound monofilament leader. And that way you've got your bigger crankbaits, shallower diving crankbaits, and your top waters covered there. Matt says, yes, seems like it stays pretty level for being as cheap as it is. But I guess if I haven't got my hands on it, just going off of what I've seen on videos. Yeah, uh, that's the thing is, it's hard for us to really judge how people are using the bait because all we're seeing is it underwater and the way that they're working the bait. We don't know what setup they're using, where they're casting, how long they're counting it down. It's possible that if you're working the bait more aggressively, that thing's going to start acting all weird on you. But if you're working it perfectly, that thing might have a stable, good glide to it. Um, so don't always take everything that you see for what it's worth. We never really know, right? Dave Jolly, calling it a night, fellas. Thanks again for the recommendations, Tyler. No problem, man. Glad that I could help inspire you. Sorry that it was your third purchase of the week, man, but also not sorry at the same time. I think you're going to be happy with it, especially if you picked up this dude right here, this Mad Craw matte finish of the BDS 2.2. Have a great night, man. Thank you for hanging out. Uh, have a great weekend. Tom says, had to go pee. Yes, it was my turn. Well, I hear you, dude. Obviously, I went first, so no big deal. And Matt says, Tyler, do you use that BBZ rat in the pre-spawn or more of a summer bait for you? Or wake baits in general? When do you start? Good question, and thank you for asking. So I would say the latter is more true for me. I tend to use wake baits as a summer and fall bait more than a pre-spawn bait. Okay. I'm more likely to use a shallow diving crankbait, which is part of why I picked up the BDS one for the pre-spawn. You know, as fish are moving up shallow, maybe they've even created their bed, are getting territorial, but are starting to really be up shallow. They're not hitting top water yet. That's where I really like the idea of a super shallow diving crankbait more than a wake bait, because in my opinion, a wake bait, even though they can be cranked down and fished faster subsurface, really a wake bait shines when it is fished slowly on top of the water. Now, of course, there are going to be some wake baits on the market that are that prefer to be fished quickly and do best when they're burned on top and they don't blow out. They still stay on top. They don't crank down. Right, I get it. But in my opinion, um, a wake bait does best with that methodical knock, 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 just kind of creeping on the surface. And that is especially how I prefer to fish the BBZ1 rat, is on a slow, methodical retrieve, on a stop and go retrieve. So I will creep that thing on the surface at night in the summer, low light periods in the summer and in the fall. But that is my main thing, the main way that I work a wake bait. Now, if I'm using something like, you know, the KVD 2.5 wake bait, I might fish this thing, you know, at a little bit wider variety of times. I might throw it during the daytime. But still, I think with the sound profile that this thing, I think it does best with this hard knock sound, traditional hard knock at about that speed. So it is a slow to medium slow speed retrieve that I think it does best. You know, there are a few baits on the market like, you know, the speed wake from 6 Cents that will do really well on a fast retrieve, and it will stay on the surface and not blow out. And, you know, great. But I have not put the time and effort into that bait to really get to know, say, that technique of working a wake bait. So when it comes to the rat, and I've probably caught, I don't know, 150, 200 fish or more on this specific bait, the Spro Rat 40. This thing has been wicked for me. You know, and I've got it in multiple colors, but the Spro Rat 30 and the Spro Rat 40 are my jam, especially the 40. It's a nighttime bait. It's a summertime bait, more than anything, on a slow, methodical retrieve. Adam says, I like the idea of another spool. Yeah, I have that. I've got multiple spools for my, I'm going to forget the name of the reel. It's the Quantum Smoke PT reel. It's historically was my favorite reel until the Daiwa Tatula SV, but that Quantum Smoke is an awesome reel. I've got two of them and I have a third spool. So I'm really able to kind of do a wide variety with those reels. And yeah, I love them. Daniel says I'm buying all the Mad Craws now so I can resell them to Tyler. I'm not buying them secondhand on eBay, all right? I'll tell you that much. If they're in stock at Fisherman's Warehouse, I might buy a couple more. In fact, I might even buy 4 of them and try to sell 2 of them on eBay. Odds are, though, I'm probably not going to. Probably going to keep what I bought tonight and call it good because I don't already sell stuff on eBay. It's been probably 10 or 15 years since I've sold anything on eBay. I do not have reviews or anything going for me on eBay to start selling fishing gear on eBay. And that's never been my game. I'm not a flipper by any means, but it was hard not to notice that when I was looking for this bait. Um, it popped up on eBay and I saw it was selling for a lot and I was discouraged by that. And then I saw it on Fisherman's Warehouse and it was $10. I immediately saw that contrast and thought, whoa, uh, crazy to think that you could sell one of these things for 4 or more times what you buy it for right now. Uh, that's kind of tempting. But ultimately, no. I bought one of each of these colors of multiple baits. And I bought 9 of them. I didn't buy a million. I didn't spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars trying to, flip and make a profit. That was not my intent here. So, I'm not going to buy them, especially if they're from you, Daniel. So, if you're going to sell them on eBay and you're hoping to sell them to me, well, good luck, sir. And you better change your name from Daniel T to something else. Tom says, Tyler, to back up a couple of steps, since you like the shallower cranks, do you know there's a Moonsault 50 also? I do. Smaller lip, also has a hole in it where the 100s have a dimple in the lip. Yeah, I did know that, but I thought it was more of a waking type of bait. And the 100s, honestly, dive in that like 1 to 3 feet of water. I really do like that. I don't want a wake bait action out of that thing. Where the 1.5 square bill Moonsault is going to run in that 2 to 5 foot of water and be a good deflector. I really want something that I can run in and around grass, over the top of grass, or right up shallow on the bank, and be that slightly different profile of a more bulbous body. So yes, I know that they make a 50, but there's a reason that I have the 100s and not the 50. So I like shallow, not super shallow diving crankbaits, but I've started to look into and start getting a couple of super shallow diving crankbaits, like with that Bass Pro Shops egg and now the BDS one. So yeah, I appreciate the recommendation, but I do know about that bait, and that's the reason I don't already have it. And Matt says, "I'm eyeing you, Daniel. Don't you go doing that, Daniel." Matt says, "Do the BBZ rats crank down at all, like a foot or more?" They will if you burn them. If you fish them at least a medium fast, they will swim maybe 6 inches to a foot down. Probably not even a full foot, but yes, they will go subsurface if you fish them a little bit faster. But if you fish them slow, they'll definitely stay on the surface. It's once you get to a medium, bordering on medium fast retrieve, that they start to want to go a little bit subsurface. And once you start burning them, they'll actually dive a little bit. So yes, not a foot or more, but about a foot on a fast retrieve. Okay. Adam says the guy that was involved in creating the BBZ rat now works for Fish Labs. Dude, what? Bill Siementel works for Fish Labs. Or Fish Lab. I didn't know that. Um, Interesting. Bill Siementel is that dude is legit. He's also responsible for the BBZ1 swim baits, which I pretty much only have in the 6-inch, but I've got a few of them. And yeah, they're a multi-jointed squeaky swim bait. And they make these in multiple sink rates. They make it in a floating, a slow sink, and a fast sink. I've pretty much only got the slow sink because these things sink at about a foot per 3 seconds. It's a super slow sink. And yeah, the fast sink I want to say is a foot per second, and the floating obviously does not sink, but this has a very natural swimming action that imitates a stock trout. And they make this in a 6 and an 8, maybe a 10, but pretty much just a 6 and an 8. And when Bill was making these baits for Spro, designing them rather, he made some awesome videos on YouTube. And this was like maybe 10 years ago, um, on how to fish those baits. And so I'm a big fan of him. And if he's actually working for Fish Lab, then sweet. I just, I didn't know that, and I think I only have one or two of the Fish Lab baits. So that's interesting to hear. Ron says, "Oh yes, the Hendrix rat. I knew you would love that, Ron." And Matt says, "Because usually in the spawn and the post spawn, when I caught fish on rats, it was with the ones that crank down like about a foot, and then float back up on the pause and then repeat." Yeah, it would, but you'd have to work it more erratically. So I don't know if that's going to be the one to do that with, but perhaps something like the Jackal Gantarelle would be a good bait for that purpose, right? I assume you have one or two of these baits, but I don't know if you do. Um, Especially the Gantarelle Junior, very easy to throw as opposed to this full size Gantarelle. But this is a floating, multi jointed hard bait and reasonably priced. But they crank down maybe 2 feet. And, crank down is a relative term because they don't really crank down, but they will swim down maybe a couple feet, and then you kill it and it will slow float back up. Uh, so it's got an awesome action, but is a floating bait, unlike most in its category. Adam says they were on the Burley Fishing Show yesterday, showing it. What, the Fish Lab rat? Also, they're releasing a dragonfly. Yeah, dragonfly baits, I feel mixed about, right? There's one that I had, maybe it was a Savage Gear, actually, but I forget who made it, but that I did fairly well on a couple of years ago. It was made from a TPE uh, material, so it was like a super durable, but not a Duratec super stretchy material, and I did really well on that for a season or two. Probably caught 30 or 40 fish on the same bait without losing it. It has a hook on the bottom of the bait. I'll show you guys that bait sometime. I don't have it nearby, but I think I know where one of them is, up in the garage. Matt says, "I bet if Burley found out that Gancraft sold a spider top water soft plastic, he would go nuts. Don't hear many people talk about them." I didn't know that Gancraft has a spider, but you know, there's a lot of stuff out there that people don't talk about, that people don't know about. And Matt also says, "Never got the Gantrel, but always heard good things about him." Yeah, it depends on what you're looking for, but I do recommend that you get them. You know, the Gantrel Junior is quite a bit more usable, not just user friendly, but more bite size. This full size Gantrel is a bit bigger, right? If you look relative to my hand, I mean, this is like a relatively big bluegill, and the Gantrel Junior is more of like a legitimate bite-sized bluegill. So I think I like the Gantrel Junior a little bit better than the full-size Gantrel. It's also a little bit easier on the bank, price-wise. It's pretty affordable. I think it's less than 30 bucks, and it's definitely a good bait. So you should try it out at some point because it is a floating bait. You can work that thing quickly. It will dive a couple feet and then it will slow float back up. And if you have fish that eat a bait well in the post spawn, pre spawn, spawn, post spawn on that type of retrieve that is shallow but a floating bait. So something you could work slowly on the surface or let dive down a little bit and work its way back up. The Gantarelle is one that you need to have. Okay. Whoa. Adam says the Fish Labs rat is a soft plastic. What? Or the dragonfly? I assume you're talking about the dragonfly. And so is the Savage Gear. But if their rat is a soft plastic, that is weird. And definitely something that I want to see. Tell me right now in the comments. Are you talking about the rat or are you talking about the dragonfly? What what bait of Fish Labs is soft plastic? Ron says if I had that Gantarelle, I would only use it in my tub. Too expensive to lose. That's not true, dude. This bait is like I don't know, 35, 40 bucks. It is expensive, but more than that, it's beautiful, right? You don't want to lose it because it's good looking. Of course, I'm about to smash all my other JDM baits with the weight of this lure. Uh, but no, it's not too expensive to lose. You'll get over that soon enough, Ron, and come to realize that a bait is a bait. And especially when it's one like this that runs super high in the water column, that your confidence in using it and your fear of losing it change drastically. Your confidence goes up, your fear of losing it goes down. Um, and a bait like the Gantarelle with swiveling hook hangers, Matt, if that's not a convincing factor for you, I don't know what is. Okay. There's not a lot of glide baits or jointed hard baits on the market that have that, especially that are mainstream and so good looking. That is one more reason to have the Gantarelle. It's got that double feathered treble hook, super realistic. It's got multiple line ties. Really, one is made to be a line tie up top, um, and one is made to be a weight hanger on the chin. This is made to make this thing sink, slow sink, as opposed to slow float. And yeah, it really great design features in this thing. It's got a subtle knock, and yeah, it's worth having. Okay. Adam says, no, their dragonfly is a soft plastic. Man, if their rat was a soft plastic, I would lose my mind. Um, I don't know how you'd make that work, but of course their dragonfly is a soft plastic. So is the Savage Gear. Um, when I say TPE, I mean it's a durable soft plastic. I forget what TPE stands for, but it's a type of plastic that is super durable but not stretchy. Um, I'm tempted to go get it, but I have a couple of them. I don't know where the other one is. I know where one of them is. I'll show you guys on the next live stream if I can remember to bring it down. But yeah, let me just look up what it's called at the very least, okay? I think it's called the TPE Mayfly, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, Savage Gear 3D TPE Mayfly Nymph. Check that thing out. I thought that it would come with multiple in a package. The thing is like 2.2 inches long, weighs 1/10 of an ounce. It's a lightweight bait, has a hook on the belly of it. It's a sinking bait. so it does not float on top. So you do have to either put it under a cork or you have to work that thing, on a retrieve. But I mean, the thing is really good. Thermoplastic elastomers, TPE. Solid. Yep, that sounds about right. Thermoplastic elastomers. Got it. Matt says, I'd say a reasonable price for what it is, and will last since they float, not going to lose it as easy as you would a slow sink glide bait. I agree. Gantrel is a sweet bait. Tom says, I like my Gantrel Jr. 1.5 ounces, 5 inches long. Yep. No, it's an awesome profile. The full size Gantrel is a little bit bigger, right? This thing is like a 2.5 ounce, 6 inch long bait. It's definitely a little bit bigger. The Gantrel Jr. though is ideal, and I've got that up in the garage because I see it as a little bit more of a confidence bait. I brought it with me a lot last season at the end of the year. Adam says, anyone know where I can pick up the Spro Rat besides on eBay? Uh, that's in stock right now, dude. I don't know. I mean, that's the weird thing is like it's not a super in demand bait. I don't know what the deal is. But it's a hell of a wake bait. They used to be a little bit easier to find. The Rat 50 is one that I'm hoping to put to use more moving forward. This bait doesn't have nearly the wear and tear on it that the 40 does for me, and that's because I didn't have the Dobbins Fury 795 until like a year or more ago. Whereas I could throw this Spro Wrap 40 a lot easier and a lot sooner than I could the 50. You can see that the 50 is much bigger than the 40, and it's much heavier too. I think the Rat 50 it's a big bait. Okay, it's a full size rat, whereas the Rat 40 is like a perfect middle ground. Essentially here we're talking about like the Whopper Plopper 130 versus the 110, right? Big bait versus medium or medium big bait. Whereas then you step down to the Rat 30 and you almost see the same size difference between the 30 and the 40 as you do the 40 and the 50. Not quite, but then you step down to that little baby rat and it's tiny. I mean, it's a mouse, not a rat. So that Rat 40 is the size. You still get that knock out of it that you do with the bigger guy, but it's castable on a wider range of gear, and it gets bit all the same. Maybe not quite as well as or as big a fish eat the 40 as they do the 50, but I might argue that because I've gotten plenty of big bites on the 40, and in the limited amount that I've thrown the 50, I've been nervous to throw it, and I haven't got bitten all that well on it. Haven't got bit all that well on it. It's just a little bit more niche of a bait. It's more difficult to use, whereas that 40 is just ideal. Ron says head shops. What are you talking about? Anyone know where I can pick up the Spro Wrap besides eBay? Says Adam. And Ron says at the head shops. That is funny. Yeah, if you're talking about that Morning Dawn rat, you got to go somewhere where they sell weed or products to consume weed. That's funny. Head shops. Um, Matt says, and I think it's way better to start using a slow floating glide bait to begin with because I almost lost all my glides I got in the beginning that were slow sink. Yeah, no, that is something that you have to be aware of is how that sink rate affects the bait, right? I think a lot of people are not fully aware of what the bait is doing. And then especially if you're working the bait on a downward twitch, that thing is never rising. It's literally it's going to do its work at that part of the water column that it's in, but when you pause the bait, it's going to keep sinking a little bit. So if you cast that thing out there, let it sink, and then you start working the bait, and then you kill it, it's going to keep sinking. And before you know it, it's a little bit too low. You make contact with a piece of cover, and boom, it's gone. So yeah, that's the thing is you kind of have to visualize the cast and where you want that thing to be the entire way throughout the retrieve while you're using a sinking bait. Okay, especially when it's a glide bait that is valuable. You have to be extra careful. So with a bait like that, you want to cast it out there, let it sink a little bit, work that thing, let it sink, work that, and let it sink, and then work it up on a an upward twitch so that thing actually rises back up before it sinks. You can kind of maintain the depth that it's at by overcoming its sink rate by twitching it up and making that thing. I mean, but it's not as natural of an action, right? Let's be honest. Daniel says Tackle Warehouse is showing rats in stock May 31st. That's a ways away, dude. May 31st. I mean, that's still before summertime, technically. So, might be a good time to get them. But dang, dude, that's almost 2 months down the road. That's a long time to wait for the rats. I wish I had a couple of them so that I could give one away. I'm sorry about that. And Ron says, Tyler, turn on the black light when you pull out that rat. Yeah, I do have a UV light upstairs, and I should bring that downstairs. Just flip off my light and start a little rave party in here. Who's this now? I don't stunt. Have you ever heard of the Charlie's Twitchin' chat? I have not, but thank you for contributing in the chat. I don't stunt. Um, dude, I don't stunt either. But Charlie's Twitchin' chat. Let's see what this bad boy's about. Okay, the soft plastic worm. What do we got here? So it looks like a hybrid between a fluke and a paddle tail swim bait. Hmm. No, I don't know that bait, but that's interesting. Man, why do you mention that bait? You say it's a great chatterbait trailer. Interesting. Um, I imagine that it certainly could be. Um, I talk about this somewhat frequently, but I think that paddle tail swim baits do not make good chatterbait trailers, but I think flukes do. And so you'll see me regularly using like a fluke style trailer on the back of a chatterbait. You'll see me using an upside down paddle tail swim bait, but you will almost never see me using a standard paddle tail swim bait on the back of a chatterbait, unless it's like the Z-Man diesel minnows. Okay. It is very rare to find a paddle tail swim bait that plays well with the chatterbait, but that's a good point that you make there. I mean, that bait right there is pretty much a fluke with this small little paddle tail on the back of it. So, no, I haven't heard of it until now. Now I have. So, thank you for bringing that to my attention, man. I mean, where do you find that thing? Why? I mean, when I Google searched it, it popped up at Walmart and eBay. I mean, what? How do you know about that bait? Why? It's not a mainstream bait by any means, dude. The Charlie's twitching shad. I don't know about that. So interesting. Daniel says toothy critters is what scares me about throwing expensive baits. I agree, and I guess I'm fortunate enough to not be fishing around toothy critters a majority of the time. Now, some of the bodies of water that I fish do have pike in them, and I have to keep that in mind when I'm fishing there. Now, I'll still fish a jackhammer chatterbait. I'll still fish a swim bait. Um, even a glide bait, things like that around pike. But you're right. I'll admit there are some baits, expensive crankbaits, some expensive top waters and things like that that I will kind of go out of my way to not use, knowing that there are toothy critters in the area. So that's a fair point, you know, and I might feel the same way. If everywhere I fished had pike in them, had muskie in them, and there are some places that I fished that have muskie in them, but they're so few and far between that if I was just so fortunate enough to get bit by a muskie and lose a bait to that fish, then so be it, you know. But like, uh, I don't know, they're tiger muskie and they're like state record waters, don't hold a lot of those fish. And so it's really just pike waters that make me nervous because I catch as many pike as I do bass at those places. Matt says, I got to show you this custom rat that I got, similar to a Spro rat, but has a sweet action and a killer walk that I've never seen a rat. Dude, you could burn way faster and it would stay true. You couldn't have explained better. I don't know what you're talking about. But thank you. Just tie a 120 liter. Daniel, it's what Oliver and I does. Or make your own wire leaders with a snap and swivel. Doesn't affect as much as you would think. I don't stunt. I don't stunt. My great uncle, father in law, gave me his tackle box. Hasn't been fishing in 10 or 15 years, and that bait caught me a 4 pounder. Sweet, dude. Took me a long time to find myself since the bait is 10 years old. Okay. Yeah. So you've got the bait from a long time ago and then caught a good fish on it. So you went looking for it and it's hard to find because it's an old bait. That makes sense, dude. I get it. But it seems like a reasonably practical bait. I'll say that. It's definitely a little bit weird for this day and age because it's a tweener type of bait. It's not a fluke, but it's not a paddle tail. It's a little bit of both, and that doesn't really exist these days, where you get like a tiny paddle tail. I wish I could pull up a picture on this live stream right now. I'm not on StreamYard, so I can't just pull it up and show you guys, but it's a little bit weird. If you guys were to look up that bait, the Charlie's Twitchin' Shad, it is like a fluke body with a 1/4 size paddle tail swim bait tail on the back. And it seems interesting. Probably does well as a chatterbait trailer. Doesn't seem like a logical bait for me to use for anything in particular, but I don't blame you for inheriting and using that bait, and all the power to you for having success on it. That's sweet, dude. Adam says only toothy critters here that I've encountered are the alligators. Dude, you've encountered alligators? Tell us a quick story about that. What experiences have you had with alligators when on the water fishing for bass? Because that sounds wicked. I've never had. I mean, I live in Colorado. I fish in ponds, lakes, reservoirs, and rivers. Obviously, we don't have alligators here, so I can only imagine. This pile of baits is getting crazy in front of me. And I know we've been on for 2 hours and 10 minutes. It's 11:30 my time, 1:30 Eastern time, so it's getting late. And I won't be on that much longer. But if you guys have things that you want to say or want to talk about, questions you want to ask, by all means do so before we get out of here tonight. Doesn't this swim jig look pretty good? I got to trim it down a little bit. This skirt. But this is the guy that I rigged up the other night. Matt says, Tyler, what's your thoughts on the swimming fluke from Zoom? If you ever tried them, what do you use them for? So, yes. Have I ever tried them? For sure. Do I still have a pack or two of them? Yes. Do I use them? No. There was a time where I did. And it was probably 4 years ago. It's hard for me to say. I preferred the junior version of that bait and on like a jig head. So there's really no reason to use it. I mean, essentially it's a paddle tail swim bait, but that's what they had before they made the what do they call their Kitech bait? The Z swimmer? The Zoom swimmer? I don't know what they call it. But now they make a hollow belly swim bait and a solid body paddle tail swim bait. I don't see any reason to have the swim and fluke. It's not anything like the swim Senko from Yamamoto. I'll say that much. The swim Senko is a sweet bait, but the swim and fluke, meh, not great. Okay, I I think it's meh, and it comes in packaging to where those tails get twisted up way too easily, more so than the swim Senko. And yep, just no need to get it. Okay. Adam says, yeah, a few weeks ago I was punching in the pads. All of a sudden, little gator came up to the surface, not service, to check out my bandito bug. Got a video of him on my Instagram. And that's wild. At least it was a little gator. Lord Vader in the house, my man. Walmart has the Charlie Twitch and Shad online store. Yeah, that's where I saw it too. When I searched the Charlie's Twitch and Shad, Walmart is really the first place that popped up. I agree. Daniel says, I won't be on much longer. This quart jar is kicking my ass. I don't know what you're talking about by a quart jar. Quarter jar? Quart jar? What are you talking about? I Don't Stunt says, do you think the mag drafts are going to get restocked anytime soon? Where at? I mean, I would assume that you can get mag drafts at some places. And I've got a decent stock of them. What are you looking for? This is probably somewhat coveted right now. I guess I don't have a giant stock of them, but you know, I've got enough to cover me for a while. Plus the ones here and up here. Albino 6-inch mag draft. Yeah, well, how did I know you were gonna mention that, dude? When will they be stocked? I don't know, because for some reason this bait is like super popular. And it is actually what I caught my first fish on last year. Sometimes you have to go in person to buy those baits to find them. You know, the albino for some reason sells a little bit better than other colors, but I will say that the whiteback shad, ow. The whiteback shad is perhaps more of a sleeper than the albino shad, and one that you ought to look into. If you're looking for the albino shad and you can't find it, look for the whiteback shad. Okay. And are you looking for the freestyle or the regular version? Bass Pro has a lot of the mag drafts in stock, says Adam. Yeah, that's where I go to find them if I'm looking for them in stock, especially in person. You're right about that. And Ron says, Tyler, what has been your worst lure or bait last year? Worst lure or bait? Dude, that's kind of hard to answer because I would say that my worst lure was probably one that I only threw once or twice last year. And, you know, I rarely have those in front of me. I guess here's one. And I would probably give this away right now. And this is the Berkeley bucktooth beaver. It looks very realistic, even down to the extent that it has teeth colored on the bill. If I move this braid out of the way. But this bucktooth beaver sucked. More like sucktooth beaver. I have no idea why I bought this bait. It sounds nice and obnoxious. It seems like with the wide swing of this tail that it would have a good action. I did not like it. Okay. I don't know if that's number one for me. I probably not, you know. That there might have been a frog or a that's a tough question, Ron. I don't know. Dino says real Kentucky whiskey comes in a quart jar. It's around 130 proof. Insane. Um, yeah, 130 proof is wild. I have drank a couple of bourbons that are 130 proof, but moonshine is not the same as real Kentucky whiskey. And this is Iowa whiskey, all right? This is totally different. But interesting that you're mentioning real Kentucky whiskey. Are you drunk right now or what? Ron Holly, do you want this bucktooth beaver or what? I mean, it looks realistic, right? Look at those teeth on that thing. I saw this thing at the store. I don't know where I bought this, whether it was at Dick's or like at or at Bass Pro, but I saw it and was like, "Oh damn, that thing looks legit." And I think they had one in a Chapo as well as one in a wake bait, and I bought the wake bait version and it sucked. So that definitely jumps to the top of my mind when I see baits that are sitting right in front of me as one that I did not like for sure. Adam says, no idea, Matt, but wanting to try the Guggen Nuke Punch. Well, I mean, honestly, is there a real reason to try the Nuke Punch when you might as well? The Nuke Punch is a knockoff of this bait right here. Damn it. Damn it, Bobby. Wow, it's wild to see that they originally made this in a regular version and now they make it in a clamshell version. But the Strike King Rage Tail Punch Bug is what the Guggen Baits Nuke Punch was designed after, okay? This is a fat body, essentially the same as like a Kitech 3.8-inch swim bait with the kickers of more like a rage bug than a rage craw, right? You get a middle of the road kicking action. So you get a very streamlined profile, very few appendages. This thing is meant to be a punching bait more than anything. And it's an awesome bait that is almost truly round. A little bit more cylindrical than it is round, but really good bait. And I mean, I think that's what the Nuke Punch is. It's a copy of this bait, as are most of the Guggen baits. I mean, if you look at the original Bandito bug, like they licensed the patent to the Rage bug or the Rage craw. No, Rage bug to make the Bandito bug, the Rage craw to make the Kraken craw. Like they partnered with Steve Parks from Rage craw, Rage. I forget what he even calls his company, but Steve Parks, the guy who makes all the Rage baits for Strike King. That dude worked with the Guggens to make their first round of baits, and then they found a loophole to get around his patents to make their own baits without having to pay him a fee for all the sales that they made. So, bunch of bollocks, if you ask me. And I'm not from Britain, but definitely a bunch of bollocks. And I gotta pee again. Shite. Sorry, I'll be back in 30 seconds. I'm not going anywhere, so it's not like you need to go anywhere either. We aren't going anywhere, guys. And I'm sure that you can probably hear, oh gosh. Oh no. Oh no. Well, that sucks. What the fuck? Wow, I did not expect that. That's not good. Oh no. Oh, that sucks. Yeah, Ron, I need a bigger cup. Um, I might have just peed on the floor a little bit. Matt knows that I peed on the floor a little bit. I did. That sucks. Not fun to pee on the floor a little bit. You know, trying to go in a cup. I not ideal. So Adam says, what is comparable if not the same as the Bandito bug that you all like? Let's see here. Because I'm happy to hate on the Bandito bug, even though I've got like 3 or 4 different colors of the Bandito bug. You know, the reason that the Bandito bug was made is because of the rage bug, okay? The Bandito bug and the rage bug are essentially the same bait. The guys at the Guggen squad liked the rage bug that much that they created the same thing. Now, the Zoom Z Craw is essentially the same thing. Um, it's a little bit bigger. The Z Craw Junior is an even better bait, in my opinion, but a slightly different profile, slightly different application. So the Z Craw regular is like a really good wobblehead bait, and the Z Craw Junior is slightly better Texas rig, uh, chatterbait trailer, swim jig trailer type of bait, and that's what I would go to. But if you're gonna step down from there, you might as well go to like the Z-Man Goat. Um, Super versatile bait. Okay. And I don't stunt says, what size Kitex are those at the bottom? These guys are the 6.8. So I don't have the 7.8, but I do have and use the 6.8 from time to time. Ow. Got me. So the 6.8 on an ADOT owner beast hook is like ideal, especially this time of year in like this color, which is I think called rainbow trout. It's a very natural color, and I do recommend it. So 6.8 Kitech comes 3 to a pack, like $10, and it's a hell of a deal. So good bait, no doubt. I know Sun says, "What's your favorite Berkeley soft plastic?" Dude, that's tough to say. Because Maxent has quickly jumped to the top of my list. So I don't know, dude. Probably the Berkeley Maxent Hitworm. Okay. Um, the Hitworm has whoa has become like my go-to for multiple applications. Let's see if I can find a full-size one in this old pack. Oh, and it's stuck. So this was a 4.5-inch bait. And I think they make a Magnum Hitworm now. But this is the original pumpkin seed color. And it's totally round for the first 2/3 of the body. And then it gets really narrow before it gets super thin and then gets bulbous at the tail. I've found this to be a super versatile bait for me in multiple scenarios. So this bag in front of me is cut up in like 800 different ways. And I mean, you would not believe how many different ways I've got it cut. Like literally down to a 1-inch size on a 1/0 size hook. Maybe this is a size 1 hook. And I've been fishing this thing for multiple species. Holy shit. I'm sorry for my language, but I did not realize that this thing would not play well. Wow. This is a foam cork. This is the Trout Magnet jig head. And take a look at that. Wow. It's almost like this is made from a Laztec or something. I don't know what to do with this thing. I'm gonna put this elsewhere. Um wow. So this old pack lasted me all of last year and is ripped up into like 12 different size pieces. I caught trout, perch, bluegill, crappie, bass, everything you could imagine on that one pack of soft plastics last year. So, gotta have it. The Berkeley Maxent Hitworm in their original size with it, which is a 4.5 inch, uh, is probably my number one go to. JP Harrell says, "Ha I got here at a funny time. Man is pissing on the floor." Yeah, no, I was, no doubt. And Ron says my dog does that. I did pee on the floor. I'm sorry about that, guys. Daniel says top 10 things you don't want to say while taking a leak. Oh no, oh no. 2, that's not good. 3, I didn't expect that. I probably said all those things and I apologize for it. Matt says I like my Berkeley Power Flutter Craw. It's one of my favorites, and a couple of others, but don't use them as much. Well, then why mention a couple of others? I don't stunt says I like the Ned bait and the Pit Boss. So I also like the Pit Boss. I'm surprised that they don't yet make a Max Scent Pit Boss. They make the Max Scent Chigger Craw, and it's an awesome bait, but perhaps one that I have not come to utilize a lot just yet. It will become one that I use more and more on a jig trailer and on a Texas rig and on a wobblehead this year, but is new in the last calendar year or so. So I picked up a bunch of these baits in the last year. Sorry, Ron, gotta smell it. Smells good and bad at the same time. Brr. But the Pit Boss is good for sure. Now I like to make the power bait Pit Boss, but I'm surprised they don't make a Max Scent Pit Boss just yet. So I do have that bait. I'm not going to pull it out right this second, but I've got it. It's not this one sitting right here. This is the straight money drop shot bait. But the Pit Boss is sitting right here, all right? Just trust me. You guys are ridiculous. I mean, if you want to buy me some adult diapers, then by all means, go for it. Then I don't have to piss on the floor. I can just pee my pants and call it good. But come on, guys, it's all good. I've got. I'm looking at a couple cups that are like 32 ounces, and they're full of pee right now. I need to empty those badly upstairs. And I'm sorry that I haven't just yet. I don't stunt says I only catch spotted bass on the chigger craw. Uh, Interesting. I wonder why. I mean, do you have a lot of spotted bass near you, or uh, why is it? I mean, because the chigger craw has a really good subtle action. It's it's a larger profile and a subtler kick, so it makes you wonder why spotted bass in particular are hitting that bait. You say you fish Lake Lanier, and I don't really know how to interpret that or why spotted bass on Lake Lanier hit the chigger craw. But obviously, if I think Lake Lanier, I'm thinking spotted bass. That's for sure. But I don't know why spotted bass more than largemouth or anything would hit the chigger craw. But Lake Lanier, I'm thinking spotted bass more than I am largemouth or smallmouth. So yeah, I don't know how to respond to that. Abe says he's sending me a Home Depot bucket. Well, heck yeah, I could spend a week or two filling that thing up, right? Probably 6 or 8 pisses. Uh, please do send me a Home Depot bucket for me to piss it, and I won't have to ever clear that thing out. What other questions do you guys have? Because I've got a bunch of baits, bunch of things that I could talk about, and we are nearing the end of the time here. We're at 2 hours and 40 minutes. It is right about the stroke of midnight Mountain Standard Time. Daniel says, "Are you using the Trigger Craw as a trailer or a standalone?" But the vast majority of time, I'm using it as a jig trailer, usually on a football jig but I will use it on the back of a wobble head or as a Tokyo rig or punch type of bait, but usually not standalone unless I'm just punching with it. JP Harrell says Chigger Craw slays on the Potomac. See you guys next time. All right, dude. Well, thanks for hanging out, JP. Good to see you in here, and thank you for the single contribution. Appreciate you. Matt says I got to go to bed. See you guys next time. All right, fair enough. And Ron says I'm sure Tyler can still walk a straight line. Planning on taking those upstairs. Yeah, no, I probably won't take those upstairs because they're pretty full right now. I don't stunt says finesse or power fishing. Finesse or power fishing. Um, Power fishing would be my short answer to that. Um, I do prefer to cover water and fish power. Okay. That said, I do love a Ned rig. I love a drop shot. I love a tube. Um, I like fishing finesse, but at the same time, I prefer to just beat the bank and go up and down until I catch a fish and then try to catch two or three in the same area before I move on. And, ultimately, I'm beating the bank and I'm trying to catch anywhere from 2 to 5 fish, 1 to 5 fish. Really, anything is better than nothing. Um, in in a session of fishing, it is rare that I catch 10 or 20 fish in a given session. Now that'll happen a handful of times per year, um, and that is it, right? I'm not going out for 8 hours at a time expecting to catch 20 to 50 or 100 fish in a day. That just doesn't happen. But if I don't catch a fish, I'm disappointed. If I catch a fish, I'm happy. If I catch 5 fish, I'm super happy. 10 or 20 fish, I'm over the moon and I'm wondering what happened, right? I'm rarely fishing for more than a couple hours at a time, and that is the reality. So, power fishing is my go to for that reason. Unless I'm fishing a very small body of water and I know that the bass are smaller and that I can catch multiple species in that same body of water, then finesse fishing by all means, right? Otherwise, I am power fishing and I'm covering water until I find fish. That is the basic rule of thumb. Okay. You say, what are you covering water with? Now, that depends on time of year. So at this time of year, it's a lipless crankbait. It's a flat-sided crankbait. Leading into maybe a chatterbait or a square bill. Um, and I'm not there yet, right? It's early April, so for me, it's still cold water conditions. I'm throwing a lipless crankbait. I'm throwing a flat side crankbait. I'm throwing a jerk bait more than anything. As the water starts to warm up, I will throw square bill crankbaits. I will still throw jerk baits. Um, I will throw shallow diving crankbaits of kind of all kinds. I will start to throw more shallow diving flat side crankbaits. I will throw balsa wood crankbaits like a DT series. Um, it starts to evolve a little bit as the year progresses, and that continues to change throughout the year. So I hope that answers your question, but that changes from season to season in terms of how I'm covering water. So, Abe says, clean up on aisle 3, which is hilarious. Rich G in the house. Easy P disposable urine bags. One of my favorite sponsors. That is hysterical. Um, I don't even know what to say to that. Adam says favorite hook for a Texas rig. Good question. Probably the Gamakatsu Superline EWG in like a size 4. If I had to pick one, right? I also really like an owner all-purpose hook. And I mean, Berkeley makes one as well. But probably the Gamakatsu Superline, if I had to pick one, especially for a Texas rig. I Don't Stunt says, what's your favorite jerk bait? I hate to tell you, but if you had to look at the top 2 rows of this box, could you tell that it has to do with Megabass? It's probably this guy right here. A standard Megabass Vision 110 in like a matte shad color. Okay. Now, I do throw it in the silent. I do throw it in the junior and the junior +1. I do throw it in the X80 Trick Darter. I love the matte shad color. And you may or may not see that coming up in an upcoming video. So, sorry. Also not sorry. I don't know if Matt is still in here right now. I think he left. But, yeah. That's probably my favorite jerkbait is the Megabass Vision 110 standard, followed by the silent, followed by the Vision 110 Junior. Rich says this Smithwick Rogue. Interesting. The Smithwick Rogue is a great bait, but definitely not my favorite. And you said the Provoke, other than the 110, is maybe your go-to. Provoke is a good bait, but probably like number 5 on my list. JP Harrell says, looks like about $500 in jerk baits in those 2 rows. Yeah. No, I mean, it's probably, yeah. It's probably $1,000 in jerk baits in this box, if we're being honest. And that might be my most expensive box of hard baits, period. So I hear you. Ron's got to get out of here. He says it's after 2 a.m. here. Good night. I'm heading out. Well, don't thank me, man. I've kept you up until too late. So no problem. Thank you for hanging out tonight, dude. I should leave soon too. It's already past midnight, my time. 2 a.m. your guys' time. So what am I complaining about midnight for? You know, I'm not even complaining, but I feel like I am. You know, 2 a.m. is crazy your time. So hope you have a good sleep, Ron. Thank you for hanging out. Thank you for joining. Always fun as usual. So I appreciate you. But Smithwick Rogue, says Rich. Interesting. JP says, have you had much success with the silent 110? I haven't tried that one yet. Yes, I have. You know, it's interesting because you get the same darting action, but without the weight transfer system and that knocker in it. So depending on the clarity of water, especially, and the fish that you're around, that can make a huge difference. So if you're fishing around smallmouth in clear water, um, for me, that's made the biggest difference, right? Um, Clear water is the main thing because one, most people would assume a jerkbait is used in clear water, though I would not say that's an exclusive thing. But smallmouth are visual eaters more than largemouth. Um, so you get clear water and smallmouth, and you get kind of a double whammy where the silent 110 can really do damage. So yes, I would say I have noticed that it makes a big difference. I don't stunt says what rod company do you like? I don't have a preference when it comes to rod company. I'm not brand loyal when it comes to rods. So I that's what I'll say. With reels, I like a little bit of everything. Lose, Shimano, Daiwa, uh kind of everything. But with rods, um also a little bit of everything. Daiwa, Dobbins, Abu Garcia. Um I kind of have a lot of different brands. It's not necessarily a preference or a brand loyalty any which way. Okay, Lord Lord Vader feeling jazzed about the fact that it's 11 p.m. there, chilling in California right now. Tom says 109 here and I'm bowing out. Good night. Well, Tom, Tom, thanks for hanging out tonight, dude. I know that it's the late night show here and Hooksets are free, so I totally understand when you guys got to dip out. No problem. Adam says I have nothing to do tomorrow except the outdoor expo in Tampa, so I'm enjoying the show so far. Um, as long as you're willing to go. Well, geez, dude, I'm not staying up that much later. I'm almost 3 hours in, and this is one of the later live streams that I've probably ever done. So I'm gonna get out of here in a second. Uh, guys, I appreciate your support. I feel like I've been on forever tonight. And I guess technically speaking, I have. Uh, there are a number of things that I'm gonna need to put back where they came from, and a number of brain waves that I'm gonna need to get back because I don't. It's been a long time, but I'm just happy that my kids have not interrupted this live stream because for the 45 minutes or hour leading up to this live stream, my kids were struggling to go to sleep. My 4 year old and my 6 year old in particular were not going to sleep. So I barely made it on here at the time that I did. And, it's been smooth sailing for almost 3 hours, which is rare. So, I get it. I took two pisses in a cup right here. And, yeah, it is what it is. So I don't stunt says I like Lose and TX FX custom rods. Rich says favorite reels and rods, the ones that are on sale. Huh. And Adam says I completely understand. Always enjoy your shows. Well, thank you very much. Guys, let's go Denver Nuggets. I'm going to the Nuggets game the night after tomorrow, Sunday night, last regular season game of the year. I'm going to dip out of here right now for the rest of the night. Cheers. Appreciate that looks horrible. I appreciate your guys' love, and support. If you haven't already, hit the thumbs up button on this video. Leave a comment down below after I finish up this live stream, which I'm going to do in 5 seconds so that you can leave a comment. But thank you so much for hanging out tonight. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, Felicia.